Welcome to Fireblaze AI School. In this video, we'll be learning how to answer 10 frequently asked questions in Excel. Alright, so whenever we talk about a data analyst interview, Excel stands to be one of the most important uh, modules on which they can ask questions because Excel is the most widely used data analysis software. Alright, so let's directly jump onto the questions. Let's start with the first question. So, what is the difference between relative, absolute, and mixed cell reference in Excel? Okay. So, so in Excel, there are two types of references. There's absolute references and there's relative references. Whenever we mix both of them, it's called as mixed references. Absolute reference is when I want a particular value to be applied in a formula for all the cells. Whereas relative reference is when I want the reference to change with each cell moving forward. So whenever I want my cells to get a value from a cell with a reference that changes with every cell I do below, that is called as relative reference. And whenever I want a fixed value to use for every cell, that is called as absolute reference. All right. So this is how you answer this question. Now, moving on to the next question. How do you use VLOOKUP and what are its limitations? Oh, so, VLOOKUP stands for vertical lookup. We use VLOOKUP whenever we want to search a value in a given array and we want to retrieve a value at the same index from another column in the same array. So, uh, so basically, VLOOKUP is used whenever we want to search a value. We want to look up a value in some kind of array. Alright. And its limitations are by using VLOOKUP, we can only move to from left towards right and not the other way around because that is how the syntax of VLOOKUP has been created. We cannot go backwards. We have to always move from left towards right. And that is the most basic limitation of VLOOKUP. All right. So this is how you answer this question. Now, moving on to the next question. What is the difference between VLOOKUP and index match? All right. So this can always be a follow-up question to VLOOKUP because this is related to VLOOKUP. So it's asking for what is the difference between VLOOKUP and index match. Okay. So the basic difference between VLOOKUP and index match is that uh, VLOOKUP is uh, VLOOKUP is a method of looking up, whereas index match is a combination of two different functions. All right. Index individually returns a value at certain index. Match returns a certain index at a value. Yeah. Although its name is index match, it is counterintuitive. It actually performs match index. So both of them are used for looking up. The only difference between them is that VLOOKUP cannot be used from moving left to right, whereas index match can be used in any direction, wherever you are moving left to right to left, top to bottom, or bottom to top. Alright. So this is how we answer this question. Now moving on, how do you remove duplicate values in Excel? Alright. So removing duplicate values in Excel is pretty straightforward. Whenever we go to Home tab, in Home tab we have a group called as Data Analysis, and in that group, what we can do is we can easily select the Remove Duplicates option in there. So whenever we select a column and we click on the Remove Duplicates, what it does is automatically remove all the duplicate values in your dataset. Alright, this is how we answer this question. Now moving on to the next question. What is the difference between count, count A, count blank, and count F? Alright. So starting with count, count is a function which helps us count the number of all the numerical values present in a column. Whenever we select a column and we use the count function, it counts all the numerical values present in the data set. Alright. On the other hand, what count A does is count A counts any value from the table, not restricted to just numerical values, whether it be a date value or time value or text value. or a numerical value, count A counts all the values in your table. Then comes count blank. Count blanks, as the name suggests, it counts all the blank values present in a column. And count if is a type of conditional aggregation. It aggregates as count based on some kind of condition. So, for example, if I want to count the number of a certain value present in my data, for example, I have a categorical data which has three unique values: furniture, household items, and maybe electronics. And I want to count the number of occurrences, how many times electronics have occurred in the data. Then I can use COUNTIF. So this is how you answer this question. Now, moving on to the next question: what are pivot tables and why are they useful? Okay. So pivot tables are a tool which is used for summarization of the table into a smaller summary. Basically, any kind of summarization or aggregation is performed whenever we create a pivot table. It is useful for the same reason. It is useful for summarizing the whole data. We have used data sets and we summarize just a few columns out of that data set and create a smaller table which is called as pivot table. So it is basically useful for summarizing the data and creating small summaries out of it. So that is how we answer this question. Now, moving on to the next question: how can you create a dynamic drop-down list in Excel? So this dynamic drop-down list in Excel is a part of data validation tool, which we can see in the data tab in Excel. So data validation means whenever we apply some kind of data validation rule to a column, what it does is it only allows the specific values to be entered in that column. So whenever we create a dynamic drop-down list, we create a restriction to the user that that user can select only specific values from a list that we specify. So in order to create this dynamic drop-down list, we need to create all the unique values that we need to, or we want someone to enter into that data. We create a list in a separate sheet. We go to the we go to the data tab. In that we will see data validation, and in that data validation we will see a new rule. If we click on new rule, we would be able to create that new rule. In that new rule we will select list, and for the list we would have to go to the next sheet where we have added all the unique values. We have to select that list and our dynamic drop down will be created. So this is how we answer this question. Moving on to the next question: how do you use conditional formatting? Okay. So conditional formatting, as the name suggests, is used for formatting the data in a certain way based on some kind of conditions. For example, if uh, I have data for the marks of students in my class, and if I want to what I can say, if I want to color, or if I want to write uh, the the students who have secured less than average marks in a certain color, maybe red, and the marks of students who have got above average marks in a certain color or a certain format, suppose green color. In that case, we use conditional formatting. To use conditional formatting, in our home tab, we have an option called as conditional formatting. We have to click on that option, and in that we'll have some preset rules available, or we have an option called as new rule. Whenever you click on any of this option, we will be able to create this conditional formatting. All right. So this is how we answer this question. Moving on to the next question, that is, what is the use of the if function in Excel? Now, if function anywhere, be it Excel or anywhere, is used for some kind of conditions. So whenever we have to create a new column based on some kind of condition, we use this if column. So for example, I have a sales column in my data set, and I want to write, or I want to create a new column based on some condition. For example, if the sale value is above a certain limit, so if my sales value is above $1,000, I would want to, term it as good sales. And if it's below that, I would want to term it as bad sales. In that case, I will be using this if function. What it will help to me in, it will create, it will, Wherever it will check all the value, wherever the value is greater than 1000, it will return me the input that I have or the output that I have specified, which is good seeds. And wherever the value is less than 1000, it will give me the another output, which means bad seeds. So this is how we answer this question. Now moving on to the last question of this video is, how do you handle errors in Excel formulas? Now mind well, they have asked, how do you handle errors in Excel formulas? If they would have not mentioned formulas, you would have been you would easily select remove errors. Alright, or you could have to tell them that you can go to Power Query and then you can handle errors by removing the errors easily. But since they have asked it in formulas, you need to answer it in that way. Alright. So how do you handle errors in Excel formulas? Okay. So if I have some kind of errors in my data set, I can use if error function, which will help me solidify that error or consolidate that error into some kind of value. So for example, if there's a column in my data with some errors and some actual values, what I'll do is I will create a new column and I will write if error. So if error, that means wherever there is an error, I will write if error. It will revert me a value which will be the new value. Maybe if the error is occurring because of division by 0, I will write there that the denominator is 0 and the division cannot be possible. And if not, if there's no error, then I'll return the actual value that is already in my previous column, that's already present in my data set. So that's how I will handle the errors in Excel. And then when I've created this new column, I can remove the previous column using this. So this is how you answer this question. All right. So we are done with all the pushes that we had for this video. Uh, I hope you got to learn something new from this video. You got to learn how to answer these Excel based questions. Again, this is not the exhaustive list. There are several more questions that can be asked and which you should prepare, which you can find anywhere easily in your. Again, I would like to say, like always, the questions can be repetitive. You'll find those answers everywhere, and there can be multiple answers to one question. What matters is your clarity. If you're clear enough in your, in your understanding about the subject, then there's no such thing as it when it comes to an interview. As long as you are clear, you will be confident. So confidence and clarity is the key whenever you want to crack an interview. All right. Again, thank you all for joining this video, and I hope to see in a new video somewhere. But if you did like this video, please like, share, and subscribe this video. And if you want to see more such content, more such videos, please follow Fireblaze AI School for more such content. All right. But until next time, I would like to thank you all.